All right, hold on. Good. Let's see. According to this software, I'm live. So please Let me hear you in the live chat. I mean, type in the live chat so I can know you're here. It's going to be a very short live stream. So please let me know if you're there in the live chat as soon as possible. I have around 20 minutes. I want to use all of them constructively. If you're here, let me know in the chat immediately that you're here, please. Okay. Today's topic is going to be about abolishing demonic claims. So, first thing first, what is a demonic claim? That's the first thing I want you to understand. Because if you don't understand that, then there's not much use in you watching this live stream or participating in it. So, hold on. So, it goes like this. In daily life, we encounter objective requirements as well as claims. Okay? So, let me give an example of an objective requirement. Let's say you have a child, and the child sees a stove, and the stove is red. That means it's warm. That means the pan or the pot is ready to go on it. And the child thinks, whoa, it's glowing red. What is it? And the mother said, don't touch it. And the mother even forcefully removes the child's hands from near the stove. And the mother tells the child, don't do that, you'll get hurt. And in life, the child will realize, oh, I could have burned myself. So that situation was an objective requirement. That thing was hot. Your body is fragile. Your body is not designed to deal with that type of heat, especially not on that age. So your parent was correct in prohibiting you from touching that stuff. It's an objective requirement. Before I continue, do you understand what I've just explained? Do you understand it? About what an objective requirement is? Okay, you understand what an objective requirement is, which is good. Now, another type of objective requirement would be that people need to be able to understand you. So if you're writing is from communication, there needs to be an agreement how to write certain words or certain sentences. For example, in English, you have the word your, or the sound your. Your can mean a possessive, something that belongs to the opposite individual, or it can also be that you're stating someone's current position. You are, it's optional to your. So if you say your, it can be a possessive or it can be someone's state of being. If you write down your, just like that, people don't know what you're saying. So that's why in English you have your with a comma above, then an RE. That's when you're stating someone's state of being, and you're just like that. Your as a word simply means someone's possession of the opposite individual. For example, the sound I. The sound I can refer to the I, a pronoun, can also refer to the organ. If you write down I just like that, an I, what do you mean? So that's why you have E, a Greek I, E for the organ, and a simple I for the pronoun. So that's an objective requirement to have some form of communication. Okay? So objective requirements are necessary to function. Okay? But besides objective requirements, human beings also have claims. For example, you have a child that wants to play football, and there is this plot of grass over there, and then the father tells him, "Don't go there, don't play over there." The child asks why, because it's an open field. Then the father says it's private property. Let's say the child is 6 years old, and the child asks, "What is private property?" Well, it just means that you're not allowed to be there without someone's permission. The child sees reality is an open field with grass. But let's say now that you have this field, but there is a hedge around it. Now the child will see, "Oh, there's a hedge around. Why is there a hedge around it?" And then people say, "Well, this because you not be there." And because there's a physical barrier, the child's mind can process, "Okay, maybe they put this barrier so I won't come there." So the child will understand the symbolic prohibition. If there is no symbolic prohibition expressed, the child will just go off in the field. And even by law, let's say you have a garden, but you don't put a hedge nor a fence around it, and people walk on it, you can't count any claim saying they've trespassed because people would say there are no markers. So, besides objective requirements, there are also claims in daily life. We humans, we have claims. A claim is you holding out an outcome of how you want things to be. So write this down. A claim is you holding on to an outcome of how you want things to be. It doesn't matter whether how you want things to be is correct, whether it's the best way or whether it's legitimate or not. It's just a clinging onto an outcome that you hold dear. So if someone has a plot of grass and he wants everyone to stay out of it, that is his claim. It is my plot of grass, even though the individual only moved there 2 weeks ago, but it is my plot of grass, and I determine who's allowed to walk on this or not, because I'm God of this piece of earth here, which is a claim. And this claim is protected by the community. That's why when children come around and say, "Don't go there, it's private property." But let's say now that someone has this claim and people disregard the claim altogether. People just walk over that plot of grass, they even party over it, even challenge and come out and fight and get off of that plot of grass. What's going on now? A claim's not validated. And that's all property in the world is. A claim that seeks validation. Because without validation, the claim is just that, a claim. Let's say it's the 1600s, and you have this Portuguese ship come all the way from Portugal to South America into a jungle. And suddenly the Portuguese captain says, that piece of jungle over there is now ours. Namely, means of the Kingdom of Portugal. But then you have natives living and think, "Well, what is Portugal? What are these white males with that weird flag?" And suddenly they speak this weird language, and we have to give in to what they want. So that's how it is in the world. You have objective requirements and you have claims. Now, a claim doesn't have to be wrong. For example, if someone just came from work and they just want to relax because they need to their body and their mind needs to recover, then their claim of wanting to be alone is legitimate because their body needs it. But if someone goes into daily life, they don't want any obligations towards anyone, but they don't demand the community to always be functioning at its best so that they are left, so they don't have to be challenged. That's a claim that's narcissistic. That's a diabolical claim. That's a claim that cannot be defended. So, a claim can be legitimate, that is when it's based in reality, or a claim can be diabolical. That means when the claim cannot be justified, and the fact that the claim cannot be justified is where the reason for the claimer to drop it. And it's also a warning sign for the people not to give in to the claim. But what often happens in the world is that the norm is that when people have diabolical claims, we tend to give in to what they want. Why? So that they don't attack us when we're not validating them, because that's what goes on in the world. When people come with diabolical claims and don't validate their darkness, they attack you. They tell you, and when they attack you, they blame you because you're not respectful. Respectful means giving in to their claims. For some reason, they think they are entitled to your obedience unconditionally. They come with a claim, they want a certain way, and you have nothing to want, nor to will, nor to say, nor to feel, but just to give in to what they want so they are at ease. And the moment you resist or you point out this is nonsense, you're smacked. And next time someone comes with a diabolical claim, even though your inner radio will tell you, don't give in, you give in. Why? Because you don't want to be smacked. And that's how society works. People don't want to be smacked. Why? Because they're vulnerable creatures, and to be smacked implies that you're physically or mentally harmed, and that harm can last for a lifetime. You can be paralyzed, you can become blind, or you can become crippled, or you can lose your reputation. So people want to get along. That's why when there are diabolical claims, people realize they're vulnerable creatures. They don't have much resource to go against it, so they just get along. They tolerate it, but after a while, people even agree with those diabolical claims. And those diabolical claims become the norm. That is normal. So natural is what we are, human beings on the earth. Supernatural is the empowerment from the Holy Spirit upon us, human beings. And normal is an expectation established by violence, and paranormal are diabolical claims empowered by evil spirits. Okay? So, now that we know this, as a believer, it's very important for you to unlearn diabolical claims. Because all of us here, all of us have been conditioned into diabolical claims. Many of our parents had no idea, they had no clue. They didn't know any better because they've been enforced in, they've been subjected to violence, and they agree with diabolical claims. Now, even if you don't agree with diabolical claim, often externally you have to pretend to comply so that people don't get upset with you. You do that till you're safe enough to shake those people off and you're not in a dangerous situation anymore. You get it? Now, every demonic claim, a diabolical claim, demonic claim, whatever you want to call it, every demonic claim is there to keep you from doing the will of the Heavenly Father. Human beings can have claims. Those claims can be silly. They can go quite far. Those claims can be weird. They can be anything of that. As long as they can be justified with facts and reality, it's okay. The moment a claim goes against fact and against reality, it goes against safety. And the moment it goes against safety, it's dangerous. So anyone persisting in a claim that goes against reality, against facts, that means it goes against safety, they are perpetrating harm on themselves and those around them. And anyone getting along with such a claim are enabling harm on themselves and the community. Before I continue, do you understand what I've just explained? Let me know quickly in the live chat. So, diabolical claims or demonic claims. Every demonic claim out there, if you examine them with with an open eye, you realize that it's all about compensating someone's vulnerabilities. We human beings are vulnerable creatures, how we are designed. And this vulnerability brings risk with it. It makes us interdependent on one another. As a child, you're completely dependent, and as an adult, you're interdependent. And this dependency is something we need to embrace and live with. That's how God designed us. But worldlings would want this dependency. They want control, so they want to compensate it. So to compensate the fact that they're vulnerable creatures, as God intended to be, they want to become something God never intended for them, namely independent. And to be independent, they have to fake it because they can never really be independent. So to fake it, they need to abuse and misuse the vulnerabilities of others so that others are deprived of options. Because once you're deprived of options, you have no choice but to comply with someone else. So this is what society is. You have adults who don't want to face their vulnerable creatures. So now they want to abuse and misuse the vulnerabilities of someone else to play God, to get relief from the fact that they are denial. They are in denial of reality. They are in denial of their own vulnerability. And this denial is heavy. They want relief from this weight. So now they want to control the vulnerabilities of someone else. That's what it's all about. And Though all diabolical claims are rooted in denial of one's own nature. So, if someone does not want to accept their vulnerabilities and weaknesses, but they want to misuse the vulnerabilities and weaknesses of someone else to be at ease, then they need to convince the masses that it's okay for them to do this. Now, with children, you can get away with almost anything because a child doesn't have resources to debate, nor negotiate, nor resist. With an adult, you need to be watchful because an adult can feel violated and retaliate with violence or make things hard on you. But even adults often in the world willingly comply with the diabolical claims. Why? Because in every diabolical claim, there's a false promise. And that promise is that you are being approved if you comply. That's why abusive relationships continue. That's why toxic families remain in existence. That's why tyrannical regimes continue. Because there's this one promise in every diabolical claim. If you comply, you are approved. And human beings have this deep-rooted need to be approved of. That's what we all have. And because the human species in general does not seek their approval from God himself, they now have other gods. They now have other things that are in the place of God in their lives. And those other things, whether it's family, friends, sex, or partying, or alcohol, or philosophy, religion, whatever it is, or can even be work, that other thing that they have as a substitute will always strain them because their deep-rooted need for approval must be met by God's approval directly. But because people don't trust God's approval, they seek approval from others because they need to deal with one another. We need to deal with one another as a species. There's no way around it. So if we have to deal with one another as a species, there needs to be a mission, a common mission for all of us. And that common mission is to glorify the Heavenly Father. But the world does not follow the Heavenly Father, so they need a substitute mission for one another. And that substitute mission that we have is to avoid discomfort. And how do worldlings avoid discomfort? They avoid discomfort by transferring the weight of their denial onto selected victims, scapegoating. That's how they do it. That's all society is. Adults avoiding the will of the Heavenly Father, thinking they get away with it by dumping all the pollution of their crimes on victims. That's the situation of society. That's how it's been going on for thousands of years. So the promise of approval is what keeps us hooked in demonic claims. For example, if you would tell a child, don't touch your stove, it's hot, the child naturally understands, okay, I could have burnt myself. But if you tell a child, don't walk on that street because it's private property, the child's brain will think, no, it's just a street like everyone else. Or you say it's someone owns it, but that someone is just a mortal like all of us. So the child's brain is going to think, what is this? But if you tell the child, don't do it, and the child sees other children do it, and those children are beaten or endangered, then the child thinks, okay, I'm not even going to think about doing that anymore. And when the child doesn't do it, there is ease. And this ease, the brain interprets as approval. So now the child is conditioned into chasing this reward of relief. And this reward of relief becomes the pattern in the child's mind, and that pattern will turn into defective behavior as an adult. Why? Because the child has been conditioned to embrace a restriction that cannot be justified. Because that restriction is only there to validate the claim of someone else who wants to play God. And even though the child doesn't know theology, the child can feel in his or her inner way that this restriction doesn't add up. So when a child grows up, the child will face his or her own vulnerabilities that they don't want to admit. And now they think, you know what? If there's someone weaker than me, I can do the same thing, commit claims, and deprive the individual of options so that I can be at ease. So then the child has to justify the restrictions, the toxic restrictions others place on him or her, because now they're doing the same thing. And that's why you have adults who diminish the child abuse they went through because they've become abusive in various other ways themselves and they don't want to face that. But if they have to point out the abusive tendencies of their parents and ancestors, but they have their own dumping behavior, they're going to contradict themselves and they don't want to face that. So that's why you have adults saying, well, my mother picks the belt again to whoop my behind, and look at that. I'm a grown, responsible man. Yet they have trust issues, yet they have intimacy issues, yet they have issues related to the opposite sex, they have anger issues, then they develop racial issues, but they ended up well. It's a cognitive dissonance because they themselves have developed defective behaviors that cannot be accounted for. So it's easier to justify the defective behavior of others than for them to openly admit we're all defective and we're all in this together. You see, for example, Leafy Stone's that white parents answer because I said so. It's the same when some bank robber comes in and puts a gun to your head, telling you, "Give me your wallet." And you're there with a gun against your head, so your life can be ended anytime. So you're in danger. So you're thinking, okay, I don't want to stay alive. You don't go to ask why the individual wants your wallet. He just wants it. And if you dare to ask, why do you want my wallet? Hey, I've got the gun because I said so. You can only get away with because I said so if you have a leverage over someone's vulnerability. Because parents that use that excuse, they wouldn't dare do that to their boss at work. They complete the work a different way, and the boss asked why they should do that because I wanted to. They wouldn't dare to do that. Or if it was a fellow adult that they went out of line with, they wouldn't dare to do that. But they dare to do it to the children because they have a leverage over there. They can get away in case they unload themselves. What's the difference between a bank robber entering in with a demonic claim, I just want your wallet, and the parents just dumping their frustration because they don't want to face things in life, and the child is overwhelmed by all the stress? The overwhelming the child with the stress will not solve the issue that you don't want to face. It's only harming the mental and physical development of that child, and it's make it easier for demons to attach themselves to that child will become an adult. So there's no way ever to justify it. But with children, you can get away with saying as because I said so. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Those same parents who call me because I said so, or they think it's okay to smash a kid or whatever, why don't they go together as parents of the community to the mayor and whoop his behind in his house because he had a bad policy? Why don't they say, you know what? Some people, some politicians don't learn by debating and talk with them. Some of them you need to show them the hard way. So why don't they go and whoop the behind of the president or some minister or some congressman for doing a bad job and for being corrupt? They wouldn't even think about doing it because they would say, no, we are adults, we don't do it like that. Or let's say you have a husband and the wife is a bit, she is not really complying in the marriage. Let's say he begins to whoop her with a belt openly. And he will tell people, some wives don't know how to relate to their husbands. This will teach her a lesson to validate me. Will people accept it? No. They wouldn't. Oh, if an adult is treated that way, it can cause physical injury and psychological trauma that it may take years for them to recover. That's why when you physically assault someone, they put you in jail. But hold on a minute. If adults with full grown brains, if it takes them years to process trauma being physically or mentally violated, and that's why we don't want it to happen amongst adults, why is it okay to do it to a tiny human being whose brains are still developing and they have no other options to cope nor to deal with danger? Why is it okay to endanger such an individual? Can If you ask those people to just to explain themselves, they can't do it. Then they will say, "It's none of your business. It's my life." Do we have children? They begin to attack you. Why? Because it's the only thing they can do, because they know that you caught them. So they have demonic claims that they've inherited from their ancestors that they're clinging onto. So even though the claims came from ancestors, it's now their claims because they're the ones investing in it. And they expect you to validate those claims. No, 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 no. As believers, this should not happen. So understand the following, believers. We get along with other people in peace. That's what God, the Heavenly Father, expects of us. We even tolerate some of the nonsense of worldly people, because being at peace is the goal. We are at peace to glorify the Heavenly Father. However, there are times we just have to shake people out of us, and we are obliged to avoid certain people because they take our meekness and kindness for weakness. And this weakness, but God expects us to be weak so we walk in His power. So when the time comes for us to walk in His power, walk in His power and shut down violence around you. Straight up. It begins with imaginations. Okay. Let me give you a scenario here. You have this temple, this religious place, or let's say you have this church, beautiful big church, and all those poor people coming there because they need spiritual help and also financial help. And you have those pastors over there selling their books and selling their DVDs, giving false teachings to people to hook them in so they can financially exploit the poor. Some of the poor have sicknesses. You have children who need medical treatment. So they have all kinds of issues, and they really need help. They have those thieves calling the name of God to rob them. And then you have this black young man coming in. He's angry. He has a whip in his hand and begins to whip. He begins to smack them around, kicking those pastors out of the church, and he overthrows the tables and destroys the property of the church. What would happen? They would call the police, saying, they would call 911 saying, "Police officer, there's a black young man who lost his mind, and he's breaking, destroying other people's property. He's breaking the law." Police would come, and if it's the United States, the guy would likely be shot down, straight up. But hold on a minute. That same example I gave unto you, you can find in the New Testament. It was the Hebrew temple where you had leaders selling BS doctrines to the masses, and God Himself, in the body of Christ Jesus, God Himself walked in. He was abhorred by the audacity, by the confidence of those scam artists, and He used force, not violence. He didn't go there to dump on people. He used force to push those people out of the building, and He destroyed whatever property they had so that they couldn't sell anything and abuse the poor. So Christ righted on His own. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and do this and get yourself in trouble with the police or with people, but God did it. God righted. Today, many Christians would say Jesus should behave himself. Jesus should not have done that. Should have been kind, respectful, this and that, but God Himself, He lost it. Not losing it by exploding and causing ruin, but He lost it and He took constructive actions in smacking down the violence that was going on. So that shows you that there are times we should just ignore all the claims of society and do what's right. But what happens? Too many believers are so invested in society. So when the time comes and we realize, okay, these claims are going way too far, these claims are becoming dangerous, we need to shut them down, we don't do it. And we have the Holy Spirit. We have the supernatural at our side. We have holy angelic beings, more powerful than demons, assigned to us. We have all that leverage, but we often don't use it because we validate the claims of others. And here's the thing, even the governments in this world don't validate the claims of commoners. Someone can be paying rent and he lives somewhere. If he in his house possesses a gun and he intends to use that gun on someone else, they will come to that place that he rents, kidnap him, put him in prison, and now that place will rent to someone else. They don't care that he pays rent. He intends to harm others, and it doesn't matter that he planted in that place as so-called his, that it's just a claim. If you have a couple that's arguing and fighting, and the children at home suffering because of it, I'd say it's their privacy, it's their life. Don't intervene. Who are you? Leave them alone. Hold on a minute. If the government finds out husband and wife are neglecting their duties as parents, they will come, arrest them, and put them in prison. They don't care that it's their marriage, that it's their issue. No, 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 no. They're part of the community, and they bring harm to the community, so they should be stopped. But commoners, they're all about being accepted. Of course, we have a deep-rooted need to be approved of. That's natural. But just because we have this deep-rooted need to be approved of does not justify us enabling harm nor sponsoring Satan. So understand, I do not condone rioting and just go out there and to explode and destroy stuff. But if it happens that collective violence has gone out of hand, if it's happened, genocide is so open and people just keep on tolerating it, then the economy must be shut down, because as long as the economy continues, that sponsors the violence will continue. So to shut down the violence, you need to shut down the economy. In that case, when people go out and ruin the whole place, it's justified. Because either they go out and ruin the place and shut down that diabolical economy, or the diabolical economy continues and genocide continues. But then you have believers saying, but no, we should obey the law, the law. It was the law that put Christ on the cross. It was the law, and as well as law and order, that caused Christ's crucifixion. They forget about that. If Christ was so law-abiding as many of those Christians are Christian or so-called believers are today, he would have never been crucified, and we would never have salvation or redemption. So I'm not going to make this live stream that long, because I only have 20 minutes now. I'm in the 30s now, so I need to leave this room soon. Just understand, believers, we should never embrace diabolical claims. We can tolerate them only to rectify the situation later on in power. If you're in a weak position that you can't do anything about it, wait till you can and do something about it constructively. So that's it for now, believers. I want you to keep on agreeing with Christ, and be at peace.